Welcome to the Hashimoto's Doctor Podcast. You're now part of a growing community of people determined to take their health back through education and self-empowerment. But because of the healthcare system today, we don't have access to the types of healthcare that we want. So we have to do things differently. We've got to do things smarter, and we do that by becoming our own advocates. This podcast will give you the perspective and thoughts of one of the world's leading Hashimoto's doctors. So let's get started. Hi everyone, Dr. Shook here. I hope you're doing well today. In today's podcast, what I want to talk about is this connection between stress and thyroid function. Now, this is a really important connection. You know, if you've listened to my most recent podcast, I discussed, a general overview of, why is there so much thyroid dysfunction? What are the things that are really driving it? And what are all the, it's complex, right? I mean, there are lots of different aspects of your body chemistry and of your life that can contribute to a breakdown in your thyroid hormone physiology, the overall chemistry. So what we have to do is we have to look at you, not to overuse a word that is already overused, we have to look at you more holistically, right? We have to look at more aspects of your body chemistry than just thyroid hormone quantity. Right? So that's really, really important that you understand that basic, that is the most foundational concept that you need to understand so that we can have the best opportunity to try and help you improve your health, is that you've got to look at the overall thyroid hormone physiology, not just the quantity or amount of hormone, right? So and then when you consider that, then you have to say, okay, here's this big picture of the physiology. There are lots of different steps. This entire process of thyroid hormone production begins in the brain, and it ends at every single cell in the body when the cell uses your thyroid hormone to stimulate energy production and a DNA response, what we call a proteomic response. Okay, so that's the most foundational concept. When you understand that your thyroid-related symptoms can be due to breakdowns throughout that physiology, and it's not just a thyroid hormone quantity problem, it changes everything. And really, thyroid hormone quantity is one of about 50 different ways that I suspect the thyroid physiology can break down. We know there are so many different ways that thyroid hormone physiology can break down, and that's why we have to look at when I say more holistically, we have to look more comprehensively at your life, your diet, your exposure to toxins, your stress, your inflammatory levels, any potential infections. We've got to look at medications that you're taking that may be contributing to dysfunction in production or conversion of your hormones. There's a lot more to it. And quite frankly, this complexity, this complex web of problems, it's exactly why people have so many thyroid-related symptoms, even when they're taking thyroid hormone replacement medications, even when the doctors say that their levels look normal and that there's no problem, and it's why there are persistent issues, and that's why this is such an epidemic, because there are so many different facets of your life that can contribute to poor thyroid hormone physiology that is independent of quantity. Quantity is important, but it is just one of, I estimate, about 50 different ways the thyroid hormone physiology can break down. So, with that said, how does stress, which is one of, let's kind of go through that overview real quick. Why is there so much thyroid dysfunction? Well, I'm going to give you the 30,000 foot overview. Stress, inflammation, infection, dietary factors, lots of different components that are subcategories of dietary factors, medications, and toxins. Those are what I think are the most common issues that we find drive thyroid hormone dysfunction, thyroid physiological dysfunction, okay? When you understand that, that changes your perspective. Now, let's talk about stress and thyroid function, okay? So the important thing to understand is that, first of all, ask yourself this question. Always refer back to, all right, it's the thyroid hormone physiology I need to be thinking about, not just the quantity of thyroid hormone that my thyroid makes. It's thyroid hormone physiology. So when you think of that, where does the production of thyroid hormone first begin? Well, it all starts in the brain, right? If you remember, if you have not seen my whiteboard video, as of this recording, it's been viewed like 5.7 million times. It is the most viewed thyroid hormone educational video in the history of the internet today, to date. So we're, I'm pretty proud of that. I hope it makes a big difference. And if you have not seen that video yet, you've got to watch that video. You've got to see that video, because I explain this, right? It starts in the brain at a central structure in the middle of the brain called the hypothalamus. Now, the hypothalamus releases a hormone whenever the brain is constantly measuring the amount of thyroid hormone in circulation and the body's need for thyroid hormone. When the brain determines that the body needs more hormone to ramp up the metabolic processes, what the brain does is it stimulates and it signals the hypothalamus, this central structure in the brain, to make this hormone called TRH. Okay? So TRH is released, and what TRH does is it stimulates another gland that is part of your brain called the pituitary gland to release TSH. Now that should sound familiar. TSH is what your doctors typically check to see if your body needs more hormone or not. Okay? So the TSH then circulates through the body, and whenever it reaches the thyroid itself, it stimulates the production of thyroid hormone. Okay? And that's basically how we get to the thyroid hormone. That's how we get to the production stimulation of the gland. Okay? That's how the gland gets stimulated to produce the hormone. Excuse me, I've been battling with this respiratory cold, and so I'm sounding a little hoarse probably today, and I'm coughing a bit, so I apologize for that. I hope it's not too loud. And so that's how we get to the quantity produced, okay? Now, beyond so we're to the quantity being produced. The importance of stress is that when you're under stress, your body produces cortisol. Cortisol will suppress, so it decreases the hypothalamus's release of TRH. So less TRH means less TSH, means less stimulation of the pituitary gland. Less stimulation of the pituitary means less TSH production. Less TSH production means that you may not have the stimulation of your thyroid to produce your thyroid hormone. And guess what? Your TSH may be low. See, that's a pituitary. That's an upstream pattern. And so if doctors looking at TSH as the marker, but TSH is low, they think, oh, well, the body doesn't need it. But what if your TSH is being suppressed because of cortisol, and you actually need hormone? It's important to understand that these loops are critical. So it also, the thing to understand here is that increased cortisol, there was a study done that showed that increased cortisol in the urine was associated with a reduced, peripheral, what we call peripheral, or, in the outside of the thyroid, a peripheral thyroid hormone metabolism, and contributed to symptoms of functional hypothyroidism. So when I say functional hypothyroidism, that means like it's not low thyroid hormone, it's actually, but you have all the symptoms of it. It's where you don't have the adequate and proper thyroid hormone conversion throughout your body and peripheral tissue. So your thyroid hormone converts from T4 to T3. It's not just in the liver, it converts in other tissues throughout the body, like the heart, the brain, and lots of other tissues. So there is some conversion locally in tissues. And increased cortisol has been associated with reduced peripheral thyroid hormone metabolism, and it impairs, we know it does create problems for conversion in the liver and throughout the body. So cortisol not only suppresses these issues, but impairs conversion and creates a number of issues for us. And cortisol is increased with stress. The way that works is when you're under emotional stress, you're under physical pain, or you have an inflammatory response. An inflammatory response will also create a stress response that will drive up cortisol. So when these things occur, when you have any one of these three stressors I just mentioned, it stimulates your sympathetic nervous system, which causes your adrenal glands to pump out cortisol. Okay? Really important to understand. and recognize, because stress plays a major role in this functional hypothyroidism. Okay, so I want to share that with you today. I hope this helps you to better understand your health, because remember, it's my mission to change one person's life at a time. I know if I can change your health, if I can help you, that'll help your family and make a difference in their life. That will impact your community, and ultimately that will help us change the world one person at a time. And it's also, what I want you to do is I want you to be educated. I want you to be your own advocate. I want you to be a better partner with your healthcare provider, not an adversary. Listen, your doctors most of them don't know the things that I'm teaching you. This is a functional perspective of thyroid physiological breakdown. We know this stuff works clinically. We know that this has worked for thousands of people. The things that I'm teaching you, these are not concepts that they cannot get access to, but you have to, for me to learn what I've learned, it's been through my own experience and through formal training that I had to seek out that was not part of my training at all. Not at all. So your doctors may not have an idea of these mechanisms that I'm discussing with you, and that's okay. They can help you with a lot of other things. What we want to do, and remember this, there's so much information available now that your doctors are just trying to protect you. If you come in and you mention to them that you want all these tests done, or there are all these different things and these connections, and they're not familiar with it at all, and they're probably going to shut it down, because they're really trying to protect you. And also, how much time do they have? Like, you're lucky if you have 10 minutes in the standard medical model. And you know what? That's what your insurance, that's your insurance. Okay, that comes more to that model and what it forces upon them. They want to help you, but please, my goal is to help you become better educated so you can be an active participant in your healthcare. You can be your own advocate, and you can be better partners with your doctors. So anyway, I hope this helps you out. I appreciate you guys so much, and I look forward to hearing and hanging out with you on the next podcast. But I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Please let us know if there's anything we can do for you. Thanks. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed hanging out behind the scenes with Dr. Shook. You can also talk with and learn from Dr. Shook through Facebook Live on our Facebook page at the Office of Dr. Brad Shook. Don't forget, you can also get access to our videos, guidebooks, and thyroid programs at www.drbradshook.com. Oh yeah, and don't forget one more thing. We can change the world one person, one family, and one community at a time. Until next time, remember, today is your day, and no one will tell you who you are and what you can be.